Good morning, everybody. Um, I'm Julie Campbell. I know most of you, but as you know, I manage all the nonprofit partnerships at Share Charlotte, and we're excited to welcome you to our August Share Latte. Y'all, did you know we've been doing this for 4 years? It's kind of amazing. We've invited so many special guests who are influential Charlotteans to join us informally. Normally we're in person, but we've really mastered how to do this virtually over the past year and a half. So speaking just personally and for the Share team, we are so grateful to just get to lay eyes on some of you and say hello. So anyway, again, we're grateful to Bank of America for their continued support, presenting Share Latte this year and making this possible. One of our favorite parts, we've got a great morning lined up, but as you know, we always start with some networking. So we're trying to mimic the in-person event or experience. So grab your coffee and we're gonna go to breakout rooms for a few minutes. And we always like to just have a really easy, fun topic. So, and on theme this morning, the questions that the Share team came up with are, the first is, if WBTV or another media outlet asked you for a highlight from your organization to feature on the news tonight, what would that highlight be? And then if you breeze through that one real fast in your group, the second question is even easier, and some of us will know the answer real fast. Given the choice, would you prefer to be in front of or behind the camera? And why? So we'll put those into the chat and then send us on our way, Caroline, if you don't mind. And y'all enjoy being and meeting. If you'll start with your name and organization just to sort of say hello, and then we can just have some fun with these questions. And I'll see you back here in a few minutes, and then we'll hear from our guests. Are we back? Are we all back, Caroline? Awesome. Sometimes I can't see the whole screen. Oh, I hope you had fun, hopefully meeting somebody new or saying hi to an old friend. So I was remiss in not saying, getting the Share team to do a little wave, but I introduced myself, but I didn't get them to wave. Melissa, Sarah, and Caroline are also here this morning, and I hope y'all enjoyed hearing about each other's highlights. And I'm sad I didn't get to hear whether you'd want to be in front or behind the camera. I know myself, I would much prefer to be behind the camera. Okay, so we are so excited to welcome the On Your Side team from WBTV as our special guest this morning. So many of you know Jamie Bowl and his face and his presence over at WBTV. He co-anchors the evening news and also has a nightly 7:30 p.m. broadcast called On Your Side. It's different than other newscasts in that it really takes a deeper look into some of the issues facing our community. I love getting to work with Jess every month as I send her ideas that I think might be interesting and timely. And of course, Jamie and Greg too. So without further ado, Jess, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know you have some things you want to share, and we are eager to get started here. So thank you all so much for being with us.
Hi, everyone. So I have two video clips that are just examples of the stories we do on Your Side tonight. We kind of have, I was explaining in the breakout, we kind of have two styles of stories that we do. We have stories where Jamie will go out and he'll interview people in the field, but then we also have Greg who does these amazing, they're called NAP packages. There's no anchor tracking it. There's no anchor voice. It's just letting people speak for themselves. A lot of times it has music. So I have two examples of that. They're each about 5 minutes, so I may cut out of them a little early so that we have time through everything. I'm gonna try to share my screen. Let me know if you don't hear my audio, because I've had this issue before. Okay. Can you all see my screen okay? So here's a story we recently did. Are you seeing the YouTube clip?
Yes.
Okay. This is a story we recently did about the Charlotte Community Culinary School, and I think this is one that we worked on with Julie. Jamie actually went there to learn about the projects that they're working on and talk to people who are in the school.
The way that many are putting their lives on a path to success. Census data from 2019 shows 13% of the people in Charlotte live in poverty. They're often hungry and without stable housing.
Lost the sound.
Yes, we lost the sound.
Selfish.
Can you hear it?
They help careers for those who may have been in prison, have battled addiction, or face some other challenge in life. The school, the kitchen, sits behind a lunchtime diner on Monroe Road in Southeast Charlotte. It's where we met a few of their students.
I was sick and tired of being sick and tired of going down the wrong road.
What was the wrong road?
Being incarcerated. On a few occasions, I just recently was released in January after serving 5.5 years. So I knew that I had to change. I had to get around different individuals. So I knew that once I came to this program and I spoke to Chef Ron and a few other individuals, then I knew that this was like a family.
But I found out when I got here that they have a holistic approach, and some of the other things like my mental health or other items or issues I may have, they also help you get connected that way. So the holistic approach is what attracted me here.
Were there challenges in life that you were trying to overcome at that time when you got here?
Absolutely. Not really having a place to stay I was like, how can I start school if I don't have a place to stay?
You're homeless.
Basically, yes. But now they've helped me get into, where I have stable housing right now. Once I finish, I'll be making the top dollars in order to move out and get my own place.
I'm a mother of 8, and just learning the ins and outs out of it because I was doing it from home. So one of my biggest things is when you know better, you do better. So I came here to learn the better. So I'm excited about it. Yeah.
To be able to, find yourself a good job.
Yes,
right? That's the
find a
goal.
good job afterwards, and be able to be placed out there in the real world with the, top dollar, working, knowing your worth.
Do you look at the future different now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because they gave me a second opportunity. They allowed me to think different. Trust was a major factor with me with trusting people. So I just thank the program, bro. It's a blessing.
What does the future hold now, Adrian?
Well, it's endless, and I'm in control of my own destiny.
Other days it's hard to come in, or do you guys just look forward to getting here every day?
Some days it's challenging. I'm driving an hour away, an hour and a half. But when I get in here, I'm like, I'm ready. I'm gonna go. I'm excited now. I'm ready to go home and cook what I've learned in here at home.
So when I graduated, I also had interest of working here. So that tells you a whole lot.
How did you end up in the program?
I've been in the banking industry over 15 years. So my passion has always been cooking, but in the banking industry, they always laying you off. So COVID took me out this time, and I made up my mind, I'm going to stick to what I love to do.
To have the impact that you can have, like on the stories we just heard, what does that mean to you?
It means, it means a lot to see each student come through this program and just share what people always hold inside of them, and to see them prosper and do a lot better, it means a lot.
So if I catch up with y'all 6 months from now or a year from now, where do you want to be?
I've been doing some catering, kind of like on the vegan side a little bit, and a few little pastries and treats.
Glad to be cooking for you.
So there's one example, and then I'm going to pull up a Greg piece that he recently did. This is about a food pantry.
Many people, in fact, our own neighbors, still relying on stores like this. That's why tonight we are sharing one group's mission to get more resources out. Nearly 17% of people in Avery County live in poverty, according to the U.S. Census. Many of them rely on SNAP benefits to get by. On your side tonight's Greg Simpson uses his camera to show us how Rams Rack is filling some gaps.
We're in Avery County, Newland, North Carolina. This is a community of faithfulness, loving, hardworking Americans and God-fearing Americans.
This area has the very rich and the very poor.
The people, especially from here in Avery County, are just tremendously, overwhelmingly sometimes very kind.
There are the gated communities, or there are those that just struggle from, week to week or paycheck to paycheck. The families are in crisis. We try to fill in the gaps. Reaching Avery Ministry is a 501c3 nonprofit that was organized 39 years ago by a group of local pastors that were seeing needs in the community. In a normal year, the food stamp or SNAP program does not sufficiently cover the needs for the families a lot of times that we serve. This is a real small area, so community is very tight. 3 grocery stores. There's no big chain super stores here in the county. We drive 30, 45 minutes either way to come across places like that. The needs are probably not a lot different in Avery County than any other area. There is a mountain pride. Our board of directors has always been very concerned that we're finding the needs, because a lot of times people don't want to ask. During COVID, we helped a lot of families that had never asked for any kind of assistance, and we heard repeatedly as they come through, this is the first time we've ever had to do this. This is the first time we've ever had to ask for any kind of assistance, and it's humbling to a family that has to ask for help or for assistance.
Not as a first-class journeyman welder, I was a structural welder for years. My situation started back in around 2015 or so. 2014, I started getting grafts in my legs because I got a vicious artery disease. So when it started with the back surgeries and this, I never expected this. So I didn't know what I was going to do out here, because there's no work out here for a gentleman like me. Since the COVID, I've been getting food stamps, but before that, I was only getting $15 a month. And then, I struggle. I just lost these legs, so I'm still struggling. But the assistance really helps, to a certain extent, like I say. Right now, it's okay, especially with the food stamps, because, I'm not going to say I have a hard time. I get by, with what little they do give me.
There's many needs out there that are unmet. We try to help those, fill in those gaps and help those needs.
If they have it, they're going to make sure you eat. And that's awesome. You're not going to starve up here. It's awesome. It's God sent. And so, you won't go hungry up here, and that's a good thing.
Cool. So those are 2 pieces we have. I'm going to pull up this presentation, and Jamie, you can just go ahead and just let me know when you want me to switch screens or slides.
Sure. I know that lagged a little bit. Hopefully you got a sense for it. Maybe what we can do, Jess, is either send links to Julie to share with the group, or maybe you stick those YouTube links in the chat or something. And then if folks want to go back, they can watch the pieces at a speed, that hopefully a little easier to follow. But you got a sense, for what we do. And that's what Jess pointed out, is that there's kind of 2 kind of ways that we do them. And that gives you kind of that example. Why don't you go to the next screen? We'll just kind of walk through this a little bit about us and our show. Julie kind of explained it a little bit on your side tonight. Started in 2018, and we really wanted to do something different with the newscast. We figured by 5, 6 o'clock, even at 7 o'clock, we have news. You've kind of already been caught up on the major stories of the day. You've gotten that sort of 30,000-foot view, right, of what's going on in the community that day. So what we want to do at 7:30, we kind of a couple of ways that we take that deep dive into maybe one of the big issues today. Certainly COVID's been a big, issue that we deal with. So, we do use a lot of data. We try to back up. You saw that in a couple of the examples of the intro. We want to be able to explain to people why this is important. And we think data is a great way to do that. So we use a lot of that in our bigger stories. But we also wanted to give voice to people who a lot of times, it's hard to get into the 6 o'clock newscast. And a lot of your organizations sometimes fall into that category. It can just be hard to do that on a given day, limited resources in newsrooms these days, and we're having to pick and choose, are we covering story X or story Y? Story Y, it might be you guys, and it's a really good story and it's an impactful story, but sometimes it just becomes a numbers game at times. So what we wanted to do is find opportunities in our newscast where we can devote 4, 5, 6 minutes to a topic that's important to the community, organizations like yourselves. And that's kind of the 2 parts. So there's a hard news series part of what we're doing. Then we try to find the good feature stories to really focus in on organizations doing great work in our community. And it's been a pretty good balance, I think. 7:30 every night, you can watch us as we put a show on every day. So we're always looking for good content. Our podcast drops on Wednesdays. Alex Giles hosts that. We do a segment on our show called Good Question. And it can be anything. You can ask a question about the vaccine. You can ask, what's that new building going in, on 4th Street? Then we go and search and find the answer for you. We expanded that into a podcast that just takes on those issues a little deeper. We just put one out yesterday that really is like 3 topics in one, all sort of back to school related issues. So anyway, many different topics there. Always you can find us online. And that's the beauty. If we do a segment with your organization, you're going to get a souvenir. I guess you could say you're going to get a link that you can find online that's hopefully good and shareable for you, that you can then, spread out to your social media groups, your contacts, your donors, as a way to show, here, this is what we're doing. We got featured, on WBTV or whatever station. So, I think that's pretty valuable for folks to be able to have that, as well. Let's move on, Jess. There's our team. Me, the guy you see just flapping his gums every night, but it's Jess and Greg and Kevin and Troy who do all the hard work behind the scenes. Jess is our organizer. She's the one, like Julie mentioned, they are, email buddies. So, they talk all the time via email. We set things up all the time. Greg does just amazing, fantastic work. You saw a couple of examples of that there, what he does. And Kevin and Troy, if it's me going out, more than likely it's going to be one of those 2 in tow with me. And then we set up, you probably noticed there, we do it a little differently than some, or if you're doing a story for our 5 or 6 o'clock newscast, you're probably going to get a reporter shooting the stuff themselves with one camera, and it's going to be kind of a quick, 5-minute deal. If it's us coming out for 7:30, we're going to bring 3 cameras. We're kind of bringing the studio to you, into your environment. And that's the way we like to make it look. We think you're more comfortable in your environment than you would be in our studio. So, it's better if we can bring it to you. And then, we take a little bit of time, and then we cut it up and make it into a nice 4 or 5 minute interview. It's almost like a live thing, but, we edit it up that way. Next screen shows just some of the organizations I guess we have featured here just over the last few months. Really, you saw Community Matters Cafe, the piece there. We've done a lot of work with the Alzheimer's Association, Autism Speaks, and so forth. The Community Culinary School, I think, is there as well. Loaves and Fishes, Roof Above, Crossroads. We just did a story with them this week about the great work that they're doing in Greer Heights as part of Black Philanthropy Month. It was fascinating. I mean, I love doing these interviews because I sit there and I learn so much stuff myself. And sometimes I get frustrated because even if we do 5 minutes, it's not enough because there's so many interesting, things to be told. The station as a whole, does have major partnerships, as well. And it never hurts to pitch them. You can try. Obviously in years past, we've done major events with Komen and Race for the Cure. We've done the Autism Speaks Walk as, sort of media sponsors of those events as well. There's others around. Second Harvest, I know we've done stuff with in the past as well. Those are bigger partnerships, involve more people inside the building to make those happen. Because obviously we'd love to do them all. It's just limited resources and time and space and promotional time that we can give to those kinds of things, I guess commercials, PSAs, those kinds of things. But that's why, also getting that 3 or 4 or 5 minute segment on one of our newscasts is pretty darn valuable to you too. So that's the way we try to, reach all of these people. But if you got a good event coming up and you think you're looking for a media sponsor, never hurts to ask. see where it goes. Worst they're going to say is no, I suppose. But if nothing else, you're going to probably get a good story out of it that you can share as well. So let's talk about the process, of how it gets here. And Jess, you can pop in on this too, because Jess is usually the first line of defense on these sorts of things and gets the first initial pitch. So Julie might send us an email, hey, this is coming up, or this is something we're working on right now, and we want to see if you guys are interested in something like this. And she hooks us up with an organization. And so it might start as an email, might start as a phone call. It can be any, various things. We sometimes hear about things, sometimes see something, and quite honestly, in another media outlet where we say, oh, what was that about? Or maybe we can do something different with that and take it even further. Jess, you want to go through kind of those next couple of steps there?
Yeah, I have some more slides explaining all of these more in detail, but essentially someone will, like Jamie said, we'll get a pitch or we'll get an idea. And we decide that we want to pursue it. So the next part usually comes to me. I end up scheduling our shoots. And there are a lot of different ways to do that. Sometimes they're on Zoom, and I have some more stuff on that in here too. Sometimes they're in person. Coming to the studio has been a little iffy with COVID. That's something we want to get back to that we used to do and used to have people come on live. But that's not really a thing right now. But usually we'll figure out a way that we want to show this, and whatever is most convenient for somebody, the elements we need, who wants to talk, and then we'll schedule something. I have some lists of availability that usually works for us later in here. After it's shot, Troy, Kevin, or Greg will edit it. That usually what we'll do is wait at least a day after we do a shoot, because that gives them a little bit of time to just go through it, edit it all together, make sure it looks polished, and then we'll air it. I will usually send a note about when it's going to air. So it'll air at 7:30 on our show, and then after it airs, like Jamie was saying, it'll go up online. When I can, I try to write an article that goes with it too, so that helps with posting it on social media as more of a link that has an article with it. And I will send those links to you.
Let me just hop in real quick, Jess. And Greg, I think Greg is with us. He's driving, so I don't know if he can maybe pop his mic on. Greg's timing is a little different than when Kevin and Troy and I go out someplace. We're probably there an hour at most. So kind of keep that in mind as you're maybe thinking, okay, so they're coming, how long is this going to take? Probably an hour or less for us. And probably 20 minutes of that is just setting up and tearing down. The actual interviews themselves aren't too terribly long. We get a little bit of video if we can for where we are, like you saw at the culinary school. Greg's process probably a little longer. So Greg, maybe walk through kind of how much time you spend with somebody, and then your editing time is probably a little longer too.
Yeah, so oftentimes I'll initiate a lot of our stories that I'm doing, because I can kind of pick them out a little bit. And what I generally do is look for a story I can wrap around I call them a real person. Not that you guys aren't real people, but kind of someone you guys are helping, a family in need, or with the literacy stuff, a family that's fallen behind with Zoom learning, or volunteers planting trees, or whatever it may be. And I can come out and spend not multiple days. I don't really have that much time, but I can generally, especially if it's in the Charlotte area, come out on multiple days, maybe not all day each day, and kind of get all of the elements we need. And I like to get people in their home too, not just in an office or a clinical setting. If we can tell somebody's story where they live is often very powerful, or where they're spending their time. I do a lot of homeless stories too. And that's really what I'm looking for in a story is real people that can kind of tell the story of your organization, if that makes sense. And generally I do about 2 or 3 stories a week. So it gives me a lot more time to edit and to get kind of extra elements for the stories too, if that makes sense.
And it shows, they shine. Greg's pieces are fantastic television. Some of the best stuff we've had, quite honestly, on our air is some of the stuff Greg has done just recently even. So, if you go to our website that I think just put up earlier, the btv.com/tonight, scroll through the bottom, you'll see video links if you just want to see other examples of some of the work we do every day. What's on the next page, Jess? So what makes a story interesting? You know, this is important. Timeliness is obviously, you know, the first thing, right? There's an event coming up that you have. New developments are coming up. Alzheimer's is a good example of that. They've been very, very good about, hey, we are hearing from our national organization that a new study is coming out or something, right? So they will work with us and ahead of time and say, this is coming next Wednesday. We can probably find somebody for you to talk to about it when it comes out. So, you know, when that drops, that information drops, boom, you got somebody to talk to. Obviously, you're all planning events and those sorts of things, and you usually know about them long in advance. So the more headway you can give us on that, more lead time, you know, helps us organize, get you on the calendar, you know, and do a good job with it, you know, ahead of time. There's going to be news of the day that comes along, you know. I'm trying to think of an organization here. Well, the Conservancy or something like that, right? You're dealing with environmental issues, right? We just had a ton of flooding or rain or something like that that's coming up. So we may want to talk to someone about that because it's, you know, something has happened that day. Try to be as responsive as you can because, boy, you got to strike when you can. If they're calling for a story and today's the day they can do it, I encourage you to take that opportunity if at all possible. Greg mentioned personal stories. You saw it there with the culinary school. We got a little bit of sampling of what, you know, those folks have been through in their lives, and people can relate to those stories, and it makes me care, you know, when I hear it. It gives them a sense of the monies you're raising and where it's going, and the lives it's impacting. That's obviously the biggest thing. Eye-opening statistics, you know, if there's something that just backs up, we use a lot of data in our show. So if there's something that can back it up, you know, that really drives home the point, give it to us. And that's usually a good way for us to get it into it. You know, and again, something surprising, something, you know, unusual. We were talking, I think, in one of our, the breakout group there, you know, about a person and their incredible success story, you know, with the hurdles they've overcome, whatever it may be. Just look for that nugget that's unusual or hasn't been, you know, heard anywhere before. Jess is the greatest contact we have here. Here you see her email address. We'll make sure, I'm sure Julie can share it with everybody too. If you don't have a chance to jot it down, you know, we get pitches a lot. Some of them are from PR firms and they're nonsense that we're never going to do. But a lot of them are interesting. And so we do try to read through them all, but you got to try to break through that clutter, and you don't want to write, you know, War and Peace. You want to keep it as simple as you can. Nice summary of the idea, how you think you might be able to do it. You know, can it be in person? Are you in that position? Do you have Zoom? Who might be able to talk to us? Do you have that personal story that you can share with us? Anything specific, give us some time windows here. I've got some of these days are open, maybe in the next week or two, you know, that kind of thing. And we can try to, you know, get it scheduled. So, you know, keep that in mind as you're writing that email. Again, clear, concise, you know, as much, you know, stuff you can have sort of formulated for us helps us out too, just for logistics reasons, because we're running in a lot of different directions on a given day. So if you can make our job a little easier that way, it's helpful. Right now, we tend to shoot right around noon where we can. We can go later than that, obviously, at 2:30 on weekdays. I have to be back and do the 5 o'clock news as well, as this, you know, 6 and 7:30. So I've got other responsibilities. I can only be out of the building so long. Greg's got a little more flexibility sometimes, as he mentioned. So if it's that route, you know, we can try to work it around that. We know that's difficult sometimes for people's schedules, but sometimes it works out too. Because even if you're working a job somewhere else, or people, you know, who are in your organization you're helping have to be somewhere, maybe a lunch hour, you know, as a chance to meet with them. But as soon as we, you know, we just throw out times and dates and we try to put the puzzle together and make it work, and we'll pick a time, a location, and you'll see us with our cameras in tow. So airing on TV, you know, one of us hopefully will give you a heads up when the story will air. Sometimes we miss on that. I know I do. I think Jess probably does a far better job than me, and I know Greg does too, letting people know when their story is going to run. Luckily, you know, it's going to air live on TV, then it's going to go on the website. We're going to stream it as well, you know, on all of our apps and those kinds of things. People are using, you know, Roku and all those things. So people can even hop on those anytime and go back through, you know, there's a segment where you'll see on your side tonight, scroll through, find the story, share it that way. So lots of ways, you know, obviously to get the story out there and share it. And I think that's really valuable for you guys too, to, you know, be sharing those links on your Facebooks and Instagram. Well, I guess you can't share links, but you know what I mean? You can tell people where to go. I mentioned this a little bit, but yeah, you know, you guys planning events, certainly for event oriented stuff, you know that well in advance. So give us as much notice, you know, as possible so we can do a story previewing it. Obviously the idea is to get, you know, people into the tent for whatever your event is, fundraiser going on, that's kind of things. We try to, you know, do those things the week of or something, you know, because it doesn't necessarily always work. It's, you know, the day before. If it's an online event, that's one thing. But if it's something where people got to register and they have to, you know, buy a ticket for or whatever, they're going to want to, you know, do that a week out or so. So we try to, you know, do those things several days in advance to give people a heads up, and it also gives us time to put together, hopefully, a quality piece that will get the message across, to, you know, as well. Our changing landscape, right? So certainly COVID has changed a lot, you know, of what we do, and there's lots of different ways to connect with people. See a couple, you know, of examples, you know, here we were doing something with Novant Health and their Welcome Back festival, which we thought we were back anyway, but, you know, we can see where, you know, we share all this stuff on social media. Some people, you know, who we did an interview with, they were smart. They took some pictures of us while we were there too, shared it on their social media accounts ahead of time to let people know the story's coming up. So, you know, take advantage of those things, you know, as well. Hey, WBTV was down today, pretty cool. Here's some behind the scenes, click, 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 take out pictures of us doing the interview. You share it ahead of time, creates a little buzz, hopefully. You know, we didn't promote the story that night. It gets on the air, you know, so hopefully we get, you know, as much traction, because that's the key here. We want people to watch it. And again, I mentioned this too. We're at a million places right now. We're streaming constantly. There are other opportunities for that as well at WBTV. It's not just on your side tonight. Obviously, we have, you know, our QC show that airs in the morning. They do an hour in the morning, they do an hour in the afternoon. A lot of content there. So if we can't get to you for some reason, there's probably other programs at our station that can. We also do streaming events now all the time. We're almost a mini 24-hour news operation, and that we have that you see on the right side of your screen there. You see like that computer screen and a desk there, and they basically will stream live events, and they'll do live interviews with people. We do Facebook sort of interaction with people. You got a question about something, you know, so you guys are experts in a lot of these fields, you know, like Ross is here, you know, with MECED and the great work you're doing, and you know, might be an opportunity for you to talk about education sometime and come on and do a live sort of interaction kind of a thing with our audience via Facebook and that sort of thing. So those are many, many different kinds of ways that, you know, your message can get out. Zoom interviews, yeah, they're a blast. There you see Share Charlotte behind us. I turned my desk into a studio during all this as well, where we've got, you know, microphones sitting there in front of me, cameras behind me. All of that sort of thing. And it's just, you know, it's a fact of life. We didn't want to, you know, the thing was during the pandemic, certainly we're still in it, you know, there's great opportunities for you guys. I know it's harder to fundraise right now, but the need has never been higher, right? In a lot of cases. So it's important that we still get the message out. So if we have to do it via Zoom, do that, but then, you know, supplement it with us, send us some pictures and photos you guys have shot in the past of different things that, you know, we can cover it up and still make it look like it's interesting television. So if we can't get to you in person, that's another good option. And, you know, and now we're dealing with mask mandates, et cetera, again, inside, you know, we just got to be creative as best we can. So that's kind of that. I want to hop into the chat here, and Jess, anything I'm missing, failed to ask here. Why is this not? Oh, you probably in full screen mode, is that why?
Yeah, let me, and I have a clip of an example of that Zoom interview that we did with Elsa that I don't have enough time to play it right now, but I have that video clip that I can send out.
Yeah, you just share it that way. All right. Go back here.
I wanted to, Jamie and Jeff, the Crossroads piece that you shot this week. They, just for everybody, I think this is really interesting. They're having their inaugural event. They've actually never hosted a fundraising event. It's called Dine and Shine, and it's tomorrow night. And they are so excited. Isn't it going to air tonight, Jess? So that is just an example of something that's super timely. And they just sold out. So I just have, yeah, isn't that awesome?
Actually, it ran, when did it run? Tuesday? What is today? Thursday, right?
I think it's running tonight.
No, I think actually we had to move it. We moved it up, and if that's a good example. I probably didn't tell somebody, which was totally my fault. It was really interesting. And it was good, and I learned a lot on that shoot. But then they're sold out.
Well,
so I
they
guess
sold
maybe
out. That
Yeah.
worked. Yeah.
So maybe it
for
did.
sure.
It got out to the people who needed to know that.
There's some questions here.
yeah.
Emily, do you want to ask yours, or do you want me to read it? I thought you might want to say hi.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for this program. I just was curious for adults and children, as we think about our clients who may have a good story to tell, what kind of permissions and waivers do you recommend, or do you even require?
We don't require a waiver. If someone agrees to talk to us, that's enough from our point of view, like legally or whatever. That's up to your organization. I mean, certainly in schools and those kinds of things, when we go to certain places or at certain hospitals, we know there are certain things we can't do. Or if they say, hey, don't shoot that, you can't show that person, we'll work around it. If you feel like you need to get that ahead of time, I don't know if there's probably a sort of generic form somewhere online that you could probably grab from. So I'm not the best on that one. I don't know, Jess, you know any more, or Greg, but
No, we don't require anything. The only time when we will require a form sometimes is with copyright issues, with if you have photos that you want to give us that somebody else took, like a professional photographer maybe of somebody. That's the only time that we have a form to fill out, but other than that, we don't have anything.
Okay. So I'm summarizing. I think that school principals sometimes collect photo release forms at the beginning of the year. So I think in our case, it's probably getting permission from principals and parents before having you guys into a school. But then if a family wants to be interviewed, no permission necessary. Thank you.
Awesome.
Sorry, I dropped off for a second there. So if there was a question there, I missed it. I apologize.
I was just kind of recapping.
No.
Also, I don't know.
Hey, Christy, what? It's all good. I think it was just a recap. Christy with Hope Haven, you want to ask your question? I think it's a great one.
Sure, thank you. We really appreciate you guys being with us this morning. I was just curious, you mentioned some of the other WBTV shows. So I was wondering if your show doesn't pick up a story idea, if you ever share the ideas with other shows on your station, or if we need to pitch to them separately.
Jess, I know yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I communicate a lot with our QC Live team because we also don't want to overlap each other with stories. So typically if I don't have time to put it in On Your Side Tonight, or maybe it feels like more of a QC Live story, I'll forward that information to them, and I'll tell you too. If I don't know that it'll be a good fit, I'll tell you that I'm sending it over to the QC Live team. Or sometimes if it seems bigger, I'll send it out to our whole assignment desk. If you have an event going on, they'll put it in their schedule so that they know to send somebody out to that event on the date that it's happening.
And that's the thing. I know, your events are a big deal, right? But obviously for us, it's about the previewing of the event and letting people understand, where their monies are going. So, well, we want to get a camera sometimes there the day of. The most impactful thing probably for you in the end is that preview story where we explain your mission and what you're doing. And so kind of keep that, in mind. And like I said, those personal stories are just gold if you can make them happen. I know it's hard sometimes in some situations, it's just hard. So that's when we kind of might just be me and you doing an interview then, as opposed to, Greg, who can really wrap around some other things.
Jess, do you source the stories for Greg or pass them along to him?
Greg typically finds his own stuff. I don't know if you want to chime in, Greg, about how you find
Yeah, I'm probably 60-40. Jess brings me a lot of stuff, but a lot of the stuff I kind of go out and find on my own, or it's part of a franchise we're doing, which kind of puts us into a certain category of stories. But oftentimes I'll find them on Facebook and social media. I don't know how we found stories before Facebook. So oftentimes things will be shared in groups I'm in, and I'll find them on there. And like I've said 3 or 4 times already, kind of the key is finding that personal story with, you know, a little bit of emotion. People don't have to tell me their whole life story and the down and the dirty, but a little bit of how they got into their situation kind of thing.
That's one thing I think about the emotion side. Let me just add is I've always felt, and I'm not the first person to say this, someone else did. I'm not all about trying to make people cry on TV. Like the person we're talking to me, that's almost in some ways it's distracting, if you will, and it makes people sometimes a little uncomfortable. But if what they're saying makes the viewer have that emotional reaction, boy, then you've really hit it. And that's kind of what we're going for. We want people to be able to tell their story in a composed way enough that they're really drawing out an emotion from the viewer. And that's, you know how that is when you do those testimonials at big events and those kinds of things, and you see the reaction on people's faces. You know, when in a live event you get that, and that's when you start making your money, right? And it's just a fact of life. And same thing for the viewer. If we can have them have that emotional reaction, it's going to be the better. I see Greg dropped his email address in there in the chat, so y'all can grab it.
Yes, send me your stories, please.
We're always looking.
Hey, I was going to say, Chris Barbie, do you want to say hi to Jamie? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but we were in a meeting recently, and Chris had an interesting connection back to you, Jamie, that I thought he might like to say hi.
Yeah, we did connect via chat right at the beginning. So,
oh, you did? Oh, yeah. Good. So,
but thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, I just remembered that when I saw you. I'm like, oh, Chris just relocated with the Levine Museum to
Hello,
Charlotte,
West Michigan, Chris.
Exactly, yeah. Let's see, another question. Are there any interesting themes or causes you're interested in talking about in an upcoming show? I don't know if we've kind of covered that, but if there is anything, and the other question I see here is how much lead time do you need? And I think, anyway, I'll let you think about that if you want to respond.
More is better. So as much as you can, we'll take. But we understand sometimes things will happen too. And there's going to be news events that warrant something. Like I said, if Parkinson's has, some new data research coming out, hop on those opportunities then to talk about your cause and your mission and find that person to talk to, so those are going to be quick turns. Where if you got, like I said, an event coming up, or October is X month, we get a lot of those, or week, that kind of thing. That stuff we know it's on the calendar, it's not changing, right? So let us know a month in advance or so. That would be great. That way we can get you on the calendar and you got a better chance of fitting in, because we do fill up, obviously we have other topics to cover. This isn't the only thing we do. So, sooner we can get to you, we can get you slotted in somewhere and hopefully do a good solid piece.
I would say as far as lead time also, for my scheduling, usually by Tuesday, I'm scheduling for the next week. So if you want us to shoot something the next week, getting to me on Monday is probably your best bet, because that's when our week is totally free next week and there's more availability. There's a lot more flexibility to get a time that works for you.
Yeah, and with me, it's not unusual for me to schedule something 2 weeks out, even if it's just a day without a time. Especially if it's an evergreen story, a story about an issue that can air, about an issue that's not going away, essentially, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Okay, everybody, I think we're almost at time. Jamie and Jess and Greg, this was so helpful. And I know everybody took away a lot of nuggets and your email addresses. So you'll get lots of hopefully good stories and just timely events that are coming up. And it's just so great to hear from you all. It's great to put words and faces with how this process works. And so thank you for sharing and taking time out of your morning. Is there anything
something we didn't get to,
Jess?
Julie, just email us, let us know. If like somebody has a question that we didn't, answer for you, just don't hesitate.
Of course. Yeah. And we're recording, and Jess, I've got the links that you shared. So we'll package all of that up and send it out on Monday. But we're grateful to you all. Thank you for caring about the community, honestly, like you do, and telling these stories. They are really meaningful. And what we at Share are hoping to do when we send you stories is inspire, right, the community to action, and to care about the things that are happening in our city, and then do something for them. So anyway, we appreciate you, and thank you for spending time with us this morning. You'll hear from us. Thanks, everybody.